Hi folks, this is a re-recording of a class I held last Tuesday with my students, Patreons and Facebook friends who attended the class, but unfortunately the recording was damaged, and because we have rolling blackouts in South Africa where our electricity supplier cuts our electricity off from time to time, and I wasn't able to process the video before a blackout started. So I'm going to reconstruct and retell what I told everyone last Tuesday, and I began by summarizing what I had said in the first video about my awakening and my travels and journeys through consciousness in the universe with my higher self, Maha. And I spoke of the first three experiences I had with them. And the first experiences was they showed me the wave fields. These are waves of light and sound, of different colors and pitches and different sounds they make. And I spoke of seeing my incarnation here flash by me in a split second. Then I told of my journey of going out into the wave fields again, and going with Maha and a collective of beings, where I observed them trying to awaken other human beings on the planet, and I saw them awaken someone whose auric fields lit up with colors and waves of energy coming from them. And they explained that that was how they kind of discovered me, because when I'd woken up, they recognized my energy signature. And then I spoke of a journey I had to a place that was called the Cave of Healing. And I'm going to be taking everyone through that experience so that you can experience it as a kind of a meditation, where you can meditate using this technique that was given to me by my higher selves, which is essentially a cleansing of miasms that exist in our soul codes. Miasms are false memories we have in our soul bodies that interfere with our consciousness at a subconscious level. I will be doing a couple of these journeys that I undertook, and will record them as separate recordings so that anyone who wishes to go through those journeys with me can use them as a method for empowering their consciousness. Then I also spoke about my journey in dream state into a space-time continuum, that to a place that we call Sirius B, where it was explained to me who I was and where I came from, and that I was in fact my higher self, Aismir, before I incarnated here as Colin Joseph Byrne. And as we progress through these, it will become more apparent of what time, space, and timelines are all about. And it's a fairly difficult concept to understand, because we understand time as a linear process, whereas in fact all time is simultaneous and all space is in the same space. Now, that may not make sense to you now, but hopefully it will in the future. And I spoke in that video, the first video, about my initial conversation I had with my higher self, Ismir, and some of the things he told me there. And then after our conversation, which was a fairly long conversation that I will speak more of in the future, the mist that surrounded us began to clear, and I observed a group of beings whose presence I had felt, but I hadn't seen yet. And as the mist cleared, I began to see these beings. And they were mostly blue avians, but interspersed among them were some beings that are called the gold and silver ones, because they have long golden hair, and they wear these robes, white robes, that are translucent and give off light. And they were humanoid and very beautiful to look at, very serene, very loving, very quiet, very respectful, and they are amazing beings actually, who are very shy, and I didn't interact much with them while I was there, because they are very reticent. The place I was in is called the place of the Azurites, Azure being blue, and they are keepers of the blue flame. Now, the blue flame, as you might know, is the color blue is the color of the fifth chakra, and it's the color of sound energy, and sound energy is magnetic and is part of our emotions. So they are keepers of the magnetic fields, but they also have a lot to do with the light fields as well. As I observed these beings, I just felt their energy coming, filling my being up. And whereas this experience to most people would be terrifying and frightening, for me it was the most wonderful, loving experience, where I began to really feel they were projecting love towards me, without judgment, without prejudice, without expectation. And it just seemed like they accepted me for who I am. And I interfaced and interacted a bit with those beings, which I'll tell you a lot more about later. But suffice it to say that this space that I was in, this time-space continuum, is very different from what we experience here on this planet. And it gave me my first understanding of how different the Earth really is from the rest of the universe. during my time there, I asked a lot of questions because I am by nature a very curious person. And when I was very young, I asked a lot of questions that were never really satisfactorily answered. And so it did frustrate me as a young boy and as a young adolescent and adult that there were so few answers to the questions that burnt within my soul. And so I began to ask a lot of questions there. Like, the first question I think I asked was, where am I and who are all these people? And they looked at me very kindly and knowingly, because they understand how the consciousness of humans on earth has been captured and we've been lied to. And but they very patiently and lovingly told me that I was in a different time-space continuum. In my earlier journeys with Maha, he had taught me what interdimensional and multidimensional, what multidimensionalism was, and that we live in a multidimensional universe. And here I was experiencing that. Now, what is multidimensionalism? Well, the simplest way to understand this, that if you're watching a program on your television, you have a program you're watching, but you have several other programs running at the same time. And if you change from one program to another, you hit a button on your remote control and you observe a different program. Well, in a sense, that is what multidimensionalism is. Multidimensionalism has to do with the frequency of the energy that you are attuned to. And we are attuned in this 3D reality we're experiencing to a particular bandwidth of frequencies that I can only describe as low frequency energy. And we're kept in these lower frequencies by indoctrination and propaganda and mass hypnosis, psychosis. And I'll get into that a bit more later, but in my earlier journeys I'd also learned about the mechanics of creation, and that material reality comes from the waves of energy, and that there is a stair-step process, that material reality is created, and it starts off with the light and sound waves, which then goes into a quantum field, which then goes into a morphogenetic field, which then goes into an atomic field, and then a molecular field and a cellular field. And we experience our reality as cellular beings, but we all those multi-dimensional things at the same time. So we are light beings, we are quantum beings, we are morphogenetic beings, we are atomic beings, we molecular beings, and cellular beings all at the same time. But we only experience and get to know ourselves as cellular beings. And so we limit ourselves within that projection of being material beings. And here I was experiencing these incredibly beautiful, elegant, gentle, loving beings that began to change my consciousness. And up until that time, I undertook that journey in 2006, in April 2006. I had not really understood or embodied the information that I've been given. And it's one thing to understand it consciously with your head, but until you embody it, and what that means is you begin to live it, and it becomes part of your permanent reality. I had not really changed much. I was still, partying, drinking, going out, and being a sexual person. But that experience on Sirius B really changed me. In my next video, I'll speak about the changes that began to take place within me and the difficulties I had as a mortal human being to try to embody these concepts, because they are so foreign to our common human understanding. But they go deep within the whole nature of reality and the whole nature of spirituality and the nature of our 3D holographic reality here, and how that is controlled, and how we can change that by embodying a different kind of consciousness. So that's it in a nutshell. In my next video, I'm going to be speaking of the rest of my journey there and what I experienced there, and then the difficulties I had in embodying that information and making it my own, where I experienced going through something that is called the dark night of the soul. And I'll be speaking about that in the next video. So that's it for this video. I'm going to follow this up now with the meditation of the journey to the cave of healing, and I'll explain that as we go along. This is the journey into the cave of healing waters. I should explain that before my higher selves took me on any journey, I would receive a briefing, pretty much like when you, for those of you who are familiar with scuba diving, before each dive, before you go into the water, go under the water, where you can't communicate verbally with each other, the dive master will put the divers through a briefing explaining the purpose of the dive, the depth to which you are allowed to go and which will generally be applied, and who your dive buddy is, and the estimated length of the dive. These are all very important for divers. But for journeys, there is also a briefing before each journey, before one undertakes the journey, so that one is fully aware of, one is fully consciously aware of the process that one is going into. So having said that, the journey into the cave of healing waters is a journey into one's own consciousness, and is a dive, in a sense, into one's own soul of conscious awareness. So the journey is not only, it's not an imaginary journey only, it is a very real journey into one's own soul that is a field of energy, of consciousness, filled with information and filled with memory and filled with programming. So the purpose of this dive is to go into the cave and experience the healing waters contained in the cave. The purpose of the dive is to heal memory, to heal the memories that are stored in our soul codes, in our soul bodies. In our consciousness, in this matrix, our consciousness is filled with memories that are illusionary and part of the false matrix here. And so the purpose of this dive is to go into the healing waters and to create for ourselves the conscious awareness of reprogramming and providing new information for our souls, and to heal those memories of our conscious past in this 3D matrix, in order to remove something that is called a miasm. A miasm is like a wound or a scab that needs to be healed. Now, as we go into this journey, one is going to engage with one's imagination, one's intent, and we will use our breath and our visualization to create this journey and to create the effect that is needed in order to fulfill the purpose of the journey. Now, our visualization and engaging our imagination creates information. As you imagine something, it creates something that is akin to metadata. Now, metadata is the programming that is used to create the pictures here. The photos on your computer, on your cell phones, the movies that we see in our computers and cell phones come from metadata. So what happens here is, as cameras film an object, the information coming in through the lens is transferred into what is called metadata. The metadata is the programming behind the information that is observed, and it is reproducible through the programs that are used in order to create the metadata, like MP3, MP4, and a whole host of other programs that use different formatting in order to create the photos and the movies that we see on our screens. Now, in this process that we undertake, we reverse image that process. So we create the images in our minds and in our souls, and this information becomes data that the universe is able to pick up on and able to reformat and alter the information and the programming that is held within our soul codes. And I'll explain later what the soul codes are. But if you've done my my course on the healing of the soul, there's a video on the construct of the soul, where I explain the construct of the soul, things like the how our chakras and how our chakras connecting to our bodies and our consciousness. And I explained what the Merkaba is and how we can use that field of energy contained within the Merkaba to create more life force energy. And I also explained that we have soul codes in our soul bodies, and soul codes connect with our DNA. Now we have two different types of DNA in our bodies. We have genetic DNA, which is pretty well known, science that is pretty well known here. But it also contains the information of our soul evolution and our soul experiences. That is also information. And when we incarnate here, we incarnate with our soul codes intact. And it's those soul codes that hold memories of our 3D reality here, and memory of our experiences on our soul journeys through the experiences on this 3D matrix. And this journey, as it was explained to me, is part of the healing of that false information contained within our soul codes. So one can use this journey as a form of creating metadata, which is information contained within our soul memories, and to heal the memories that have been stored in our soul codes that are foreign to the universal creation and design template. So that was the explanation that was given to me at the time. And even though I didn't understand it at the time, I was willing to engage in this exercise of the healing of the memories stored in my soul body. So with that, let's proceed and go through this journey together. And one has to do it consciously and participate, taking responsibility for the experiences you will have on the soul journey, and for creating the metadata that is required in order to reconnect our souls free from the miasms that are contained within our soul bodies that have come through the experiences we've had in this 3D reality. So with that, let's do the journey. Imagine that you are sitting in a cave in quiet meditation and contemplation. And as you sit quietly with your eyes closed, you become aware of your breath and your breathing. So you slow your breathing down by taking several deep breaths, an in-breath and an out-breath, and do it slowly. With the in-breath, fill your lungs, and then hold, and then breathe out slowly. And feel the calmness coming over you. And take another breath. Hold, and breathe out slowly. take another breath slowly. Hold. Breathe out slowly. Feel the calmness around you and in your body and in your mind, in your emotions, in your soul. Feel the peace that surrounds you. Feel the love that surrounds you. Feel the calmness that surrounds you. And in this quiet state of calmness, become aware and open your eyes, and you will see that you're sitting in a dark cave, but the walls of the cave are illuminated by small, tiny, sparkling lights of many different colors. And then you are commanded to stand up in the cave and to walk towards a hole in the cave that is in fact a spiral staircase. And then you slowly walk towards that entrance to the spiral staircase. And then you begin to walk and alight each step, one at a time, being illuminated by the walls and even the floor of the staircase, with bright little sparkling lights that shine and give a radiant luminescence to your surroundings, a light like you've never seen before. You slowly begin to ascend the spiral staircase, and as you ascend, you become aware that you are going into the heavenly realms, into higher dimensional states of consciousness. And allow yourself to have this experience. And then just breathe deeply. Breathe out. And remain calm as you ascend the rest of the spiral staircase. When you get to the top of the staircase, you look into another empty cave that is also illuminated by a soft light coming from the walls of the cave. And then as you turn to your right, you will see a pool that is filled with water, very clear, crystal clear water, and the pool itself is illuminated with the blue-white light, a light blue-white light. And the water in the pool is transparent, and you are commanded to go towards the pool and then to remove all your clothes. And as you do so, you become aware that you are removing layers of artificial covering that cover humans on this planet. And then you enter the pool, 1 foot at a time, and the pool is only about knee deep, and you feel the warmth and comfort of the waters. and you stand in the pool for a second or two and just enjoy the feeling of the comfort of the waters there. And then imagine yourself going into the waters and allowing your body to drift into the waters so that just your head is above the water. And as you do so, you feel that you are being cleansed and healed, and that these healing waters will indeed heal your soul, your body, and the earth. Just remain silent for a minute or two, for a few seconds in fact, and just enjoy the feeling, and try to feel the feeling of the quiet calmness, peace, and love that surrounds you. And when you feel comfortable enough, you begin to float in the water. And as you look up into the ceiling of the cave, you see star-like lights in the ceiling. And you begin to see the dark skies of the night filled with stars. And you feel that you are one with all those stars, with the universe. And you just lay on your back and slowly breathe. Fill your lungs, hold the breath, breathe out. Breathe in, hold, breathe out slowly. And just stay in this quiet state for a few seconds. And when you are ready, you get out of the pool and walk towards the spiral staircase. And as you walk down the spiral staircase, you are consciously aware that you are still naked. You slowly walk down the spiral staircase. And when you get to the bottom, you become aware that you are fully clothed again. And then you are commanded to embody that experience so that your cellular memory holds the memory of being cleansed, that your past has been cleansed, and that you are free from your past. The past cellular memory of this 3D experience is forgotten, and you begin to remember the experiences of your past lives in other time-space continuum, and you begin to reconnect with the universe and your soul families in other space-time continuum. And then you are commanded to take 3 sharp in-breaths and 3 sharp out breaths in order to explode this consciousness into your soul body. So take a short, sharp in-breath. Take 3 short, sharp in-breaths and 3 out-breaths. And as you breathe out sharply, you feel the power of the energy that has escaped from your soul and is now embodied in your physical body. And your cellular memory of the past is cleansed and forgotten. Then quietly sit down, close your eyes, and feel the peace that engulfs you as you lose all memory of past that does not serve you. And if memories come up of past that do not serve you, go back to the cave of healing waters and bathe yourself again in the healing waters to cleanse yourself from those past memories, and do it as many times as it takes to forget them. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is.